Hi there.
Hello?
Hi.
Henry, can you make me co-host?
Let me see. No?
Can't make Henry's not in?
No, he's here.
Oh,
Karen, hi.
Thank you.
hi.
Waiting for Bert.
Yeah. Hello, hello.
We're waiting, Karen.
Oh,
Yeah, we got everybody.
who else is with you?
Well, let's see. We got Matteo Pangalo. Have you met? You've met
Don't
Karen,
think so.
Matteo?
I know, have not.
Okay. Karen does not have internet access at this point. We were talking about this today. I won't belabor the point, but it's odd that they never got
That's
to the
right.
house.
You were going to give me a phone number.
Yeah, we'll get that to you shortly.
Okay, we're calling the meeting to order at 7:04.
Yep, looks good. Okay, everybody's here. Hello, everybody. First order of business are the minutes. The minutes for, let's see,
6:28.
6/28. Any thoughts? I found a couple typos, but nothing else of concern.
You want to tell me where they are?
I'll send them to you. It's just a letter or two here and there.
Okay.
Anybody have any issues or additions for the minutes for the last meeting?
I didn't see anything. I didn't catch those typos you were talking about, but looked fine.
Yeah, it's just yeah, nothing major. Couple
Okay.
of typos. Let's see. Where are we? So under the guideboard restoration project, third, fourth sentence in decisions needed.
Wait, now hold on, 'cause I didn't think you were going to give them to me. Let me go find the document. Give me one sec.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
you'll see them there.
I'm got a problem here. Hang on. All right. Give me one sec. Too many documents open, so. All right. So where under the guide board?
Guideboard restorations, let's see, one, two, three, fourth sentence. Decisions should be need, not needs.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was it. Any other comments? Barring none, let's. I would move to approve those minutes. The minutes for Is it 622?
628.
28. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Go around. Pangallo,
Aye.
Defunt,
I
Aye.
Stone.
don't know what we're voting on.
We're voting on the minutes, which you will not be voting because you were not present.
Oh,
You should abstain.
Stone says yes.
Stone is yes. Fernandez.
Aye.
Okay. So they pass. Up next, the guide board update.
Yeah, so the way we had left it was that I was going to reach out to Christine Puza to get a little bit more clarification about what the costs might be for the full restoration after we had that preliminary discussion about the top treatment. So, as you may recall, they gave us a quote that involves the restoration of the bottom part of the structure, but they couldn't give us a quote for the top because we haven't decided on the design of the top, and because they feel that, there may be a need to inspect the interior of that structure and to see how much of it is salvageable once it's in a shop and the studio being evaluated for the restoration. So I gave her a general idea that my sense is that people want the top to look similar to what the current top looks like. So including that kind of vertical white pergola sort of shape. And then there's kind of two sections of flashing or roof material. And with some sort of metal surface that would look vintage, probably. Not lead flashing, but some equivalent material that would be less toxic. And I think the other issue we have to decide is whether we want to have those cedar shingles or not on it. Personally, I think the cedar shingles are a bad idea, but it would be, I don't think that would be breaking the bank one way or another, whether there's the cedar shingles or not.
What would we use instead of the cedar?
Well, you
shingles?
could just have a metal flashing, or you could use metal shingles, for example. You could even use metal shingles that look like cedar shakes. Or you could just have like a flashing surface, like is currently on it. Right now, what there is lead flashing, and then the cedar shingles are nailed on top of the flashing into plywood.
Can you remind me, Miriam, based on the photos that we have, do we know roughly when that pergola top was put on it?
Probably 50 years, sometime in the 60s. It's not original.
Right. Yeah.
And you won't know for sure until you take it apart and look at the material. You'll probably be able to tell by the kind of plywood how old it is. And it may be that the whole thing has to be rebuilt. That whole upper structure may need to be reconstructed, but it's none of it is original to the original structure anyway. So she thought somewhere in the ballpark of about $5,000 might be a guesstimate of what that top structure would cost. The most time consuming and most expensive part is the base of it, which requires, all the restoration work and the lettering. So, I think that we need to go forward and make a proposal to the select board so we can get this process moving along. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
I think that we could develop a scope with Williamstown Conservation Center based on the first phase, and then develop the scope for the second phase once they've begun the work and they've done the full inspection in their studio when they've taken the structure apart. And in terms of costs, you know, we have $10,000 from CPC. We've spent about $800 of it. We've got a modest donation from the Friends of the Shutesbury Historical Commission. I think they gave us what, 1,000 or 1,500, I can't remember, toward this project. And then we have about $15,000 in our, maybe it may be more than 15, it may be more like 16 or 17,000 in our donation account. So we theoretically could do this whole thing without any fundraising or further grants.
Couple hands. Is this, well, Mary Lou's had her hand up for a while. Is it relevant to the discussion, Mary Lou?
Not this discussion, but it's relevant to the vote. Commissioner Zerwanka was not called on, so she could say she abstained. On your minutes vote.
That's right. My apologies there. I guess we could add that to the minutes.
Do you want to ask, why don't you ask her if she would like to abstain?
Would you like to abstain, Karen?
Do I like to what? Abstain from what?
Abstain from voting on the minutes.
Abstain from what?
Voting on the minutes. We just voted on the minutes, and you were not present, so you should have abstained. So, are you abstaining?
I'll have to if I wasn't there to.
That's right. Okay, for the record then. Thank you.
Right.
Janice.
Yes, so I was just thinking, Miriam, when you said that there was about, was it 10,000 or 15,000, whatever, in the donation account. As I understand it is that from the, okay, that's different. I was thinking the Friends had a donation account and they sort of dispersed it before retiring. But this is our own donation account that we have, not the Friends one.
Right.
Okay, all right, good, thanks.
Right. This is the fund where we get to about $2,000 a year.
Oh, okay, yep.
From
Schmidt
Foundation.
Yep, okay. Thank you.
The other thing I'm thinking about with this is that the recommendation from the Conservation Center is that when the structure is restored and brought back to a location on town common, that some sort of protective structure be built, like not a pergola, but like a cupola or some sort of roof structure to shield it because it's so fragile and vulnerable. And you know, what I would like to propose is that we come up with a design for this and then see if we can possibly get approval from the select board and get donations and perhaps do it with donated labor and donated materials. See if we can do it in a kind of simple way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are
not a lot of the carpentry work is not very involved to do this.
There are examples online I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking we could probably some local carpenters that might be willing to pitch in, and you know, we could get the building permit and approval from the select board, get donated materials and do it. Just build the thing.
Sounds
Jan,
good.
people have their hands raised, Henry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we got Janice, are you still?
No, sorry.
Mary Lou, is that the? Hello, Mary Lou?
Yeah, I don't know if my hand is still up or not, but I would just like offer, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's still up.
Okay, so then I would just like to offer to this conversation that we have a carpenter in town, Bob Groves. And I'm, you know, thinking that it would be, because he worked on it before, not a bad idea to ask him for his input, his help, because he's a very, very good carpenter.
We did consult with him around this restoration project, Mary Lou.
Oh, okay. And he's out or
He
in?
wasn't interested in quoting it or bidding for it.
Okay, but this is a different aspect, you know, maybe he would be happy to come and do
Sure.
some oversight, yeah, or volunteer
Yeah.
work, yeah,
I think,
okay, that would be,
you know, getting volunteers and, you know, if we needed to pay for the materials, but getting volunteer labor would be great, because otherwise it'll be another $5,000 or $10,000, and
Yep,
it's not that complicated a structure. I mean, it can.
I'm gonna,
Right.
I would also just throw out there though, that, you know, based on the guidance I got from the Community Preservation Coalition, that it is something we could apply for CPA funding for.
Really?
It would fall under the category of allowable use of preserving an historic resource. So preventing injury, harm, or destruction.
Oh, no kidding.
Great.
So it's not
Huh.
within the scope of the existing grant, but it's, you know, something that we should think about if going the route of the volunteer labor is something we aren't able to do.
Well, I'm happy to, if the commission was okay with it, I could start working on a CPC proposal and maybe come up with a preliminary design. What that could look like.
Anybody who feels they have some input on it could maybe forward information.
Yeah.
Great. That's
Anybody
great.
else interested in this particular project?
Mateo, when is the deadline for the determination of eligibility?
Oh, that's a good question. We have not formally voted on it yet, because we were going to wait until after the revision of the preservation plan. But right now, it's tentatively scheduled for December 4th,
Okay,
with the application deadline February 5th.
okay. Great.
Okay, we got.
I think if we were going to get the town to vote for it, probably we would need to be farther along also in the process of actually restoring the thing, because why are people going to want to build a structure for something that you aren't spending the money we gave you the first time?
There you
So I
go.
think we should be moving forward with this. So what I would like to suggest is that we agree to set up a meeting with the select board and get their agreement to move forward with a contract with Williamstown.
That's good. Yeah, I think we should move.
I'm wondering about a decision on the roof itself. We seem unsure about what the material would be, and how would we arrive at that? How could we? In other words, we should have a decision on it. Or
Well,
do we need to consult?
I think we're all in agreement that the cupola structure we want to have retained as opposed to removing it and having a flatter roof. Everybody seems to want it to look the way it looks.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about the need for there to be a metal surface to the roof, not asphalt shingles, which I think the choice of materials then would be part of that design process for phase 2.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. One step at a time.
Because they would tell us what is, once they look at it, they can tell us what the options are. We can't we can't make those decisions unless somebody's really assessed it. They may say that all, you know, the whole thing has to be rebuilt, or there might be parts of it that are salvageable. We just don't know. I
Okay,
mean,
I think,
it just,
yeah,
I think we just don't want to go forward without some sense that we would have the financial capability to finish it. But I think we, you know, I think either we could use the existing donated funds that we have available. We may, friends might be able to do some additional fundraising. And we could also consider an additional CPC application if we needed to, but I'm hoping that that would sort of be my last resort in my mind. I feel like we've already gone to the CPC once, and for this particular project, I understand that the cupola, the protective structure is a different question, but you know, it'd be nice to use some of the other resources we have.
I agree. And I think we should just try to get things moving so that the poor thing isn't out there in the snow again this year.
I absolutely cannot be out in the snow. It's deteriorated so much in the last 12 months.
So we have a meeting with the select board lined up.
No, we don't.
No.
We don't. Yeah, we need to.
Yeah.
All right.
And, you know, I think it would be good if it was convened as a joint meeting with all of the historical commission. So if we could, find a date, and then if you could confirm with everybody that that would work for us to convene. You have to get the date from the select board, Henry.
Okay. I'll look into it and then poll the group.
Okay.
Okay, good.
But, we need to do it sooner rather than later if we want to get this thing out of this,
Yep.
gone by November. I'd like to get it gone by November. I'll have that.
Yeah,
come.
We'll do
really.
it right away.
Okay.
Okay, moving right along, we have an update on the schoolhouse, the West, I guess West Pelham
West School.
schoolhouse. Karen, did you have something?
No,
Okay. We, as in Bert, myself, Leslie, and we were joined by Mary Lou there. We actually cleaned the place and scoped it out. There are some problems with rot on the, I guess, the northeast corner of the building that should be attended to. And I believe that's one reason why we have a guest, Stephen, is it? Stephen Delmas.
Yes,
Welcome.
thank you.
Bert, do you want to do you have something to say about
Not really, not if Stephen is here, because he's got the full report.
Got it. Stephen, floor is yours.
Can I be a co-host? I could share
Sure.
some photographs.
Absolutely.
In the meantime, I can give you an update on the mouse traps. I put 6 mouse traps in there, and first time I went and checked, after a few days, there were 2 mice, and then I went again a month later, and there were no more mice. So I don't know.
Great. So far, so good.
Maybe they don't want to come in this summer.
Yeah, right.
Photograph come up on your screen?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to highlight the things that our inspection found to be the items that we felt you would want to deal with in the very short term. So this is an opening where, you know, obviously the trim's missing, and that's at the southeast corner. So the actual front door is sort of below this, facing West Pelham Hill Road, but good source of animal, small critter entry. So we thought that that would be something you'd want to take care of. At the front entry door itself, so at the base of the front entry door, each side, you can see my screwdriver. There's a good bit of rot and decay in the base there. And I'll show you a photo on the other side. Someone at some point, some kind of patching material, but something that may not have been appropriate, or there's just been additional rot. So at the base of both sides of the front entry door there, that needs to be opened up and repaired. And one possible contributor to that is, this is that stone, that large stone that sits at the front entry. You can just see my screwdriver up here. So that has settled back towards the building. So when water comes off of the roof in a heavy rain, a fair amount of water is quite possibly splashing back up onto the door sill. So getting that repositioned so it has a slight slope away rather than towards the building, I think will help to prevent future rot there. You know, we did discuss, you could always put a gutter above maybe just the front entry door. But the problem is with the trees and the amount of debris that appears to come off of the trees onto the roof, the gutter will probably clog or fill with debris quite quickly. So unless someone is pretty regularly cleaning it, it'll then start overflowing. So you haven't actually achieved anything by putting it there.
You can get gutters that have screens on them.
You can get gutters with screens on them. There are a lot of screens that don't work very well. And I will tell you that I have some that I feel is pretty successful, but pine needles are difficult. And there are a lot of pine needles. You can see right here.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it would prevent you from having to sort of scoop out the gutter, but you would still need to periodically clean the pine needles off. And then if we go to this is the front corner, which is the most noticeable source of rot and decay. And that's one photo. And then.
And is that just a fascia board or is that structural?
Those are your corner boards. Well, I don't have it in my selection here, but in one area, I was able to go in pretty far with a screwdriver. So there is some depth to it. You have to open it up to determine exactly how far the rot and decay goes. But I think the source here, this is directly above, and this is the old lightning arrestor wire, this braided copper wire. And if you see how it curls around and then it comes back towards the building, if you imagine rainwater coming off and just tracking on that cable, I'm pretty certain that that was the source. And one of the reasons why I would conclude that is the rot starts way up here at the top. And that would be very unusual unless water was getting onto the corner boards repeatedly from a higher position. So I don't have a photo of it, but I actually carefully reformed this wire a little bit to create what's called a drip loop. So if you can see my cursor moving.
Yeah.
Okay, so this isn't exactly, but just to try and give you an idea. What I did is I bent it so it comes down and then it goes back up and then back. So it creates what is called a drip loop. So hopefully now the water will come down to this low point and fall off, because otherwise it has to go back up to then run down.
Do you have to have the lightning wire?
Um, I suspect when West Schoolhouse number 2 was constructed, there may not have been very many trees around. And maybe, because Shutesbury is, I know this isn't at the top of the hill, but it's up there. So lightning could have been a problem. I suspect, I'm not going to guarantee anything, but I suspect that the lightning arrestor system is not needed on the building. But it's there. So
And
those are, go ahead.
was some interior rot? It sounded like Bert had seen some beams inside the structure.
No, these were outside.
Oh,
This is the ones that he's mentioning are the ones that we talked
oh,
about.
okay.
When I do have a question, when we did the inspection, I was looking for some kind of trap door inside the building on the floor to be able to get in, hopefully to get into a crawl space. And I looked pretty carefully, didn't find one. And then I was talking with Becky Torres, and she said that maybe a previous building committee had been able to move one of the, I'll say, foundation skirt stones, and that there was a way to get under. I was wondering if anybody has any knowledge of that.
Leslie Bracebridge might, but she's not here tonight.
Okay. Well,
I can ask her.
yeah, ask her if she knows, because I would, if there's room to get under there, it'd be good to see what it looks like under there.
Okay.
She was
Just
actually
The sill,
the,
to look at the sill, is that your thought?
well, the sill and the structure. I must say that the floor was very level. I don't put a level on it, but I just sort of have a sense of what the surface feels like walking it. And the building seems very stable in terms of not having settled or moved at all. The only other thing is along the south end of the building. That's the end where the siding has been totally replaced at some point. The site slopes towards that foundation, and it would be much better if it was regraded so it would slope away, so that water doesn't run against the foundation, possibly seep into the crawl space, and excess moisture is never good for a wood structure. So that would be one other thing, but that was not, we did not list that as a priority item. The items that I pointed out to you were things that we referred to as priority. And I think you got the copy of the report I sent to you, Miriam?
Yeah, and I think I
Yep.
forwarded it to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if when you go through it and you have any questions, I'm available.
So I think as a point, and I'd have to go back and ask Leslie this, but I believe that the actual, I may be wrong, but I believe this schoolhouse actually belongs to the commission. Is that everybody's understanding?
I don't know.
You mean as opposed to the town?
Yeah, that it may have been, that it's sort of under our responsibility. Essentially. I don't know why whether that's here nor there. Ultimately, it's our responsibility anyway, and we'd have to figure out the funding mechanism. I suppose, we could, develop a CPC application. We could look for other grants funding. We could do, I think we need a cost estimate.
Excuse me, I need to attend to some other things. If I can
Sure.
take off, I'll do that.
Do
Unless
you have
have
any
other-
recommendations for developing a cost estimate, Stephen, before you go?
Well, one possibility is I could I'm trying to get some, what I refer to as qualified volunteers to help out on small projects that the building committee identifies for the town buildings. And I will ask one of my people. I have a couple. And
Well,
I'll
your
ask-
people might be helpful for building this protective structure for the guide board also. That might be something we can talk to your
Okay.
qualified,
All right.
your team.
All right. Well, I will ask them, and if they're willing, then I'll get them in touch with you. How's that?
I think we may need to consider hiring somebody who's really has expertise in working with antique buildings.
Mhm.
But getting an estimate would be helpful for doing that,
Yeah.
but we can
Right.
look at funding sources.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Welcome.
much.
Thank you,
Welcome. Good night.
We-
Good night.
I don't know if this means anything, but to the question of ownership, the property card just says town of Shutesbury. It doesn't say anything more.
Hmm,
It also
Okay.
says that work was done on it in 2012.
yeah, Leslie would know.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
well,
If it is, Miriam, if it is town property, Steve had mentioned that they're in the process of evaluating all the town buildings to determine priorities.
mhm,
So we may have to get in line.
Yeah, okay.
Miriam, your question.
hold on one.
I would hope that this would be moved up in the line a little bit since it's the only registered listed historic property in town, right?
No, that's not true, not true.
Is this isn't the only one that's on the National Registry?
Is this actually on the National Register?
No,
I
that's
don't
the
think
one
it
on
is.
Baker Road.
Or is it the
Um,
Baker?
Yeah, this one is on the inventory that makes it eligible for the National Registry.
Mhm.
I think there's some situations like I think he mentioned the front steps in the library that were dangerous. So
Yeah.
that may take precedence, but
Yeah,
Ah,
I doubt that this is gonna be the highest priority by a long shot because there's so many town buildings with needs. So I think, if we can move forward with a plan, developing a plan that we can bring to the town, that would be great.
Does that plan have to go through the buildings committee? I mean, could
No, I
this-
don't think it does, actually. I mean, I think it has to go to the select board. I mean, ultimately, any work we want to do, they would need to approve. Unless it was deeded to the commission I thought there was some, Leslie Bracebridge had said at some point it had been turned over to the historical commission because historical commissions can own property, but I don't know details about that. Either way, we would talk to the select board anyway, so but we need to develop a plan and then we have to figure out funding mechanisms.
so how do we start with that?
I think that we need to, if not the building committee, we may need to find a qualified restoration person to do an assessment for us.
Mhm.
I mean, I could reach out to Bob Groves and see if he's willing to do it.
He may know something about the previous work done on it too.
Yeah, he might be willing to help, so I'll give him a call.
Okay. And I'll check with Leslie on those couple of questions about it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Future projects and goals. That's pretty open. Any thoughts?
I have a
Oh.
crazy question.
Yeah, Matteo.
So the Lake Wyola farmhouse, which the state owns,
Yeah.
and is the original house is 1785, and then the middle portion and the dance hall are early 1800s. And the state is still looking for a custodian of that property. Is that something the town has ever, I mean, considering how few properties from that periods still exist in Shutesbury? Is that something that is pie in the sky?
There was a guy who was trying to develop a plan to take it over. He was actually a descendant of the Bennett family, and he asked us for a letter of support, and he had come up with a cost proposal. He was going to renovate the building, I think turn part of it into an event space. And then I feel like there was a bed and breakfast kind of thing he was thinking about.
Yeah.
And this was 2017, 2018, and it was over $1 million, it was maybe a couple million. So, because there's so many things that need to be fixed with that building.
I know they've done some work on it since they first put out the custodian request. Now the roof and some siding and windows, and they got the asbestos out. But yeah, I'm sure that it's still going to be a fortune to make it usable in any sense. I don't know.
It seems like it would be a worthwhile project. I mean, it could be a really nice space for doing activities.
It would be nice.
Down.
Yeah. It's a beautiful spot. It seems like it would be a signature kind of historic property, maybe as a community space. I mean, since most of the community spaces in town are on the other side of town, but I don't know if I don't know. I would just hate to see it just still sitting there 10 years later as the state waits for somebody to step up. But I don't know what will be involved with trying to actually do anything with it.
There'd need to be, I think, an outside grant for this. I don't think CPC would be the right venue for this. I mean, there's not enough, it just wouldn't be enough money available. So,
just wonder if the state might be willing to do something in conjunction.
I don't think they do. I think they just want to not be responsible for it and get somebody else to spend the money. I think that part of the deal for becoming a steward or custodian is that you have to have a funding plan. That's why the guy who was proposing it was trying to make some revenue. He was trying to think about it as a business so that he could, make it sustainable.
It could be a tax write-off for some wealthy patron.
Is it possible that the Massachusetts Historical Commission might be interested in doing something with it?
They don't do things like that. They have grants you can apply for.
Right.
So I don't know if they have grants big enough for this, but
it looks like a great place for a restaurant or
yeah.
Would probably have to be funded through a kind of a Frankenstein's monster kind of, some money from CPA, some money from a Mass Historical grant, and wherever. I mean, I can't imagine you would find one source for the entire amount that it would take to make that space usable.
Yeah.
And then to maintain it. I mean, we're talking about, fixing things on the West Schoolhouse, and the cost of maintaining this, what is it? 5,818 square feet, 3-bathroom, 9-bedroom, multiple property.
Well, Mateo, are you interested in taking this on?
Finding a source, a buyer or a developer or whatever for it.
Tourist attraction, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, I think a nice, like an arts center or a community center space. I don't know, but yeah, I could look around to see what kind of funds are available for just acquiring and rehabilitating an historic property.
Great. What's interesting about that property, for those of you who don't know, is it's also an archaeological site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For what?
Well, there was an archaeological survey done looking at sort of the early 18th century structures and land use, but there have been some indigenous objects that have been recovered in that general area.
Huh. Oh, okay.
Are you talking in the state park in general, or in the or right near the
Well,
the,
in
where
what
the
is the
house
state park? In what is the state park? Right.
Well, we're gonna have to come up with a really, really good plan for that one. So were there any other ideas for projects?
Well, one of the things that we had talked about was surveying stone walls.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I'd certainly like to see us do a map of stone walls for the town.
Using the LiDAR, sort of
Yeah.
using that as a base. Yeah.
Should we see if maybe we could get Eva to come and talk to us about it?
Yeah, and explain how easy or hard it would be. Do you still have the ArcGIS system?
I do.
Okay.
And every time I try to use it, I have to teach myself how to do it all over
Yep,
again. Like
yep.
always, how did I get there? I did it before. I don't do it often enough, so I don't remember. I just click on a lot of things until something doesn't work. It's fun.
I think that would be neat. And many years ago now, I went to a conference where people were talking about they were using school kids to help map the stone walls in their town. And again, they were using something like LiDAR, but then, the school kids would go out with the teacher or something and, document it, just show that it's there. And they got into learning about the different kinds of stone walls and what that meant about the local history and how the land was used and stuff like that. So it became sort of a teaching thing
Very
as well.
cool.
Yeah.
There's a guy in town who's on another board that I'm on, Nate Hurd, who's a GIS expert.
Uh-huh.
I could ask him if this
Yeah.
is something he could inform us about.
Yeah. I think it'd be neat to get something from a little, just even a short presentation from Eva about how she has done it. And that goes for mill sites, it's foundations, it's all sorts of things. So you really build a whole base map of
Yeah, if we
what
could have
used
it,
to be
if
there.
we could build a whole base map or shapefile.
Yeah, of
Do
where
you
the
guys know-
houses were.
Does everybody know what we're talking about with GIS? Is this gobbledygook? I don't know if everybody's familiar with this or not.
No, I'm not.
So there's this technology that's available for mapping now, where you can, and you probably have seen these online, where you can look at a map that you can, it's an interactive map, where you can click on things and access information from at different points on the map. Have you ever seen anything like that online?
I think you mentioned it at another meeting.
Yeah.
No,
And so sometimes you can have a map where you have different layers you can click on to add or remove. So you can see the topography, or you can see an aerial photography view, or you can see land parcels and tax parcels and the names of the streets. And you can take them on and take them off. You can sort of toggle back and forth. And this is all using what they call GIS, which is what? Geographical Information System. I think
Yep.
that's what it stands for. And so it's mapping, and it's just become a very robust and fascinating and rich way to convey information visually. For example, you could do a survey and, well, for example, if you go to your assessor's map, if you go online to our town website, to the assessor's homepage, there is a link to a map. And if you click on it, it opens up a GIS map, and you can put in the contours, like the topography or wetland outlines, or the tax parcels, like the boundaries of people's properties. And if you click on a parcel, it pulls up a document that shows you who owns the property and what the property is assessed at. So that's a GIS map, and it's online, and it's just has so much information. So it's so usable. So you can create layers, you can create maps like this using a program, and ArcGIS is a commercially available platform that allows you to create maps. And Janice and I were talking about it because Janice knows more about how to do it than me. I'm sort of self-taught. So I'm a GIS user, and I screw around with it and muck around with it when I try to, but but sometimes I'm successful.
What's
And I haven't done
about-
it in a long time, so.
What's interesting about this is that I've found that the stone walls behind on the, I guess, the north side of my property don't necessarily correspond to the boundaries.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, they're very practical, results that one could see from it.
Mhm.
Because we assume that the stone wall is the boundary. But
May have been a boundary at one time, or it may have been a Native American structure that had some other kind of meaning besides a boundary.
That's right.
Okay, Janice, do you want to reach out to Eva about that?
Sure. Okay,
Great, it'd be fun. I'll reach out to Nate.
okay. right.
Mary Lou, you've had your hand up for a while. What's up? Hello? Mary Lou. You're muted.
I'm sorry, you calling on me?
Yeah, your hand is up.
Yes,
curious.
it's been up for a while. I just wanted to say that I'm a very big supporter and agree with Mateo and Bert about preserving the house down there at Lake Wyola. I know that personally, if I had the money, I would do it myself. That's number one. And you're talking about stone walls. I have like 4 or 5 of them on this land here where we built our house. So I would be very interested in that project as well. So thank you.
I'm sure we will have more ideas about future projects. But perhaps this is enough for now. And I think that's the end of our
We were membership.
membership.
And unanticipated business.
Oh, we got
I want to talk about
unanticipated
friends.
business. Well, that membership could be an issue. Yeah, at this point we have sent out. Well, Miriam has sent out a notice for new members at one position. Yes. And we I guess at this point we're looking at hoping that whoever is part of the group will be able to participate consistently, as there will be some work involved in the future. And it would be very interesting to get folks who have writing skills, maybe some research skills, relevant research skills, archaeological, who knows, from who are local. But I understand that they don't necessarily have to be local. Is that correct? Anybody?
I don't believe they have to.
Janice, do you have any thoughts on that?
Not on that particular part, other than I'm still allowed by the grace of the select board to still be on the commission, even though I'm not living in town. But that can be changed. I think the select board has to approve people to be on an appointed board if they're not town residents still.
Yeah. The And then there's also the option of having associate members
Mhm.
be a part of this, which happens on other committees.
We have associates. We have a policy for associates, appointing
Yeah,
them.
Leslie.
Leslie's an associate.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this?
Well, I think we need to wait and see who approaches us. There was one person who expressed an interest. And I responded and let her know she could come to a meeting. She didn't come tonight. Janursa Michalunas is her name. And I think that we should have a process like other committees do. I mean, I know that with our commission, the Conservation Commission, we sort of require people to show a commitment and come to a few meetings so they can get an understanding of what the work of the commission is about, and then submit a letter of intent, and then we would ask them some questions. And if we felt like they were going to be a good fit for the commission, then we would make a recommendation to the select board for their appointment. So that's the process the commissions have done, and I know that other committees have very similar processes. They vary in terms of how many meetings you need to attend. I would say people should come to a few meetings, because we would want it to be somebody who's committed, really committed to this, not just, you know, I'll come if you appoint me, but not otherwise.
And well, any other thoughts on?
But we should agree on that process, if that's gonna be the process that we use.
Okay. I think it sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think
Like
we
it
sort
was-
of did that before when we had a few new people interested. We interviewed them. I think there are 3 of them at one point.
Yep.
It was a while ago.
You know, we should let these people know about the process. And I wrote a few sentences down about procedures, you know, how we would proceed and how it works.
You want to show that to us so we can review it?
I sent that out. Let me see if I can find it. No, let me just go from memory because it was very short. Essentially, it says something to the effect of we entertain applicants and that they should write some kind of letter of intent and describe any experience they might have that might be relevant, useful for this particular committee. And that there would be interviews, and we'd let them know. Of course, we could say you should probably come to several meetings just to get a feel for the committee.
Why don't we decide how many meetings?
How many they should attend?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, 3 meetings,
3.
but, well, we don't meet that often, so.
Yeah.
I
maybe-
don't. That's the thing. I mean,
2 maybe.
2 months.
2 meetings.
2 meetings, I think is probably good.
Okay. So it'd be actually that they would need to attend 2 meetings, and one of those meetings would involve the interview?
Yeah. At the end, or something like that. But,
Okay.
and of course, this is really the final word would be select board. You know, so they have an idea how it works. So I'll draft that up if that sounds appropriate to everybody.
Sure. Yep.
One thing that I was gonna propose here, and actually ask Karen in this case, if she might be interested in being an associate member rather than a full member, just because of the wondering about making all the meetings and not having access to the internet, which is somewhat problematic. At this point, they're going to be large files, and printing them up, etc., might be an issue. Files with photographs, things of that nature. But Karen, what, any thoughts on that? Hello, Karen. You're muted, Karen. Hello, Karen. Maybe she'll come back. And any thoughts on this? Otherwise, oh, she's gone.
Ah. Maybe she was having phone problems. I have
Yep.
phone problems calling Shutesbury.
I was shocked to know that they did not provide the internet to them.
They didn't want it.
Didn't want
They
it.
didn't want it.
You have to pay for the connection too.
Yeah.
That's true. But today I was over there, and they were complaining and saying, "Who do we talk to
Oh.
about getting internet?" Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
I
good.
don't know.
maybe this is a conversation, Henry, for you to have
With her.
one-on-one
Yeah.
with Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess the concern is just that attendance has been really tough, and it does mean that we have less people to make quorum. And
Yep.
because we're a 7-member board, a quorum is 4 people, which is a little bit more challenging than if you're a 5-member board. We haven't had a problem with this year, but we did have problems. I remember a couple times
Yeah.
last couple of years where we couldn't make quorum, or we couldn't approve minutes because we didn't have a quorum to approve the minutes.
Mhm.
So it is better for us to have a full membership, and it's good if we get people who are able to be pretty consistent in their attendance, I think.
Yep.
And it's been a challenge for Karen.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
I,
I will
you
have
know,
a
the other
word.
the other issue is that we've been trying to accommodate, and this is an issue we've had a lot of conversations about how to accommodate and support participation for members who don't have computer access. But we had also said that it was up to the commissioner had to take some initiative or responsibility in either letting us know when they're not going to make meetings, or when they can make meetings, or going to town hall to pick up packets if we get things left for them. And I don't think that system's been working.
Especially now, if we have longer documents, I think that's going to be.
Well, that was a problem back when we were drafting some of those large reports. That was like 50-page documents that we had to print and send over, and which we did. And I feel like we've been doing that for a long time, but as a secretary, it's just outside of my scope. I cannot accommodate that. It's either something that the commission does, other commissioners take ownership of, or we come up with some other resolution. But I remember having a conversation with Karen not too long, a few months ago, where we said that she needed to take some more initiative, that And I just don't know that that's happened.
Well, that's part of it. Indeed.
But anyway, I think enough said here. And maybe that's a conversation you and she can have.
Yep. Sure. All right.
So can I mention briefly about Friends?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. And so I think we talked about the Friends of the Historical Commission before. There's been a group that have been serving on them for decades and decades. And they've all come to the point that for different reasons, they felt like they needed to retire. So there are a few people that are members that are trying to keep it going and to still make it viable. Susan Millinger has been in contact with me, and she's been working to sort of resurface the group, not let it die. So
Good.
I told her I don't have any time, but I'm still at this point doing things. So first of all, it's just nice if members of the historical commission are willing to become members. I think it's $10 a year, and every little bit helps going towards the money that then they can give to historical projects. And they have given money in the past, and they distributed most of the funds that they've raised from fundraising over the past decades out to various groups before they sort of retired, including some to the historical commission. And
Which, by the way, I just
Yeah.
want to say, are sitting in our inbox, and I have to take care of them.
okay. All right. So first of all, for people who might be interested in becoming members, I don't think that they had a digital copy, but I think Miriam, maybe you had gotten a digital copy. They handed
Yeah,
me
I
a
do.
paper copy.
It,
of
it was
filling out
it
the
was
form.
an attachment, and honestly, my printer's been down. I'm waiting for
Mine
ink,
too.
and I was
Yep.
gonna,
Okay.
so there's ink, I was gonna, fill it out and,
Yeah.
send it. So I am planning to become a member.
But if you could just send around the attachment to the other historical commission members for those that might be interested. And then the other part of that is Susan and I were talking, and there's this event coming up on the common in town. I can't remember which Saturday it is. I thought maybe it was this Saturday, the birthdays thing for anyone who's,
I thought it was the 10th.
oh dear,
10th of
the 10th would be okay. Yeah, if it's a Sunday on the 10th, I can do it. So we're looking at, we got permission to put out a table. And I used to do this with the Friends group before. We put out a table, sell some of their postcards and note cards, have some interesting pictures or maps or something out so that people are interested in coming over and learning about us, and trying to generate some new members that way to work on projects or whatever. And so the most important part about the Friends from our perspective here is that they are able to take donations and raise money, which the historical commission cannot do. So it's really good to have an active, viable Friends of the historical commission so that we can work together to fundraise for, appropriate projects, such as, the guide board or the cupola or whatever over the guide board, or work on the West Schoolhouse and all sorts of things. This is one way that they would generate money, is selling various things like that, and we can come up with new ideas or new fundraising methods. Miriam had thought about doing some kind of a GoFundMe thing at one point for some of our bigger projects. So it's open for ideas and revitalization. And so I'm hoping that you guys will consider joining. Either it's $10 a year, I think lifetime is $100. So whatever you want to do, just to support that and to try to make it, viable and useful and helpful for the work that we're trying to do on the commission too. That's it.
Are they all retiring then?
Well, Susan's staying on. I think Julie, Barbara, Leslie, Joan, and was there another one? They've been on forever, and they have retired. They kept asking. Joan kept asking, for more help, but there wasn't a response, and they were all getting to the point that they didn't have the same energy anymore to keep it going. It felt like it was time for some new blood.
So I am planning to join, and I know that Joan was having some health issues and
Yeah.
couldn't, but I think the plan would be, to try to schedule a new meeting.
Yeah.
In some time in the next month or so.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Yep. Okay.
And so maybe Joan would be a part of it, but maybe you and Susan and me and anybody else that wants to be a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll try to do something. I think it is the 10th. That sounded like the right day, which I think is a Sunday, which would be fine for me. And it's going to be a town celebration to just have something like Celebrate Shutesbury, only this time the theme is if anyone had one of their 10th birthdays on a year ending in 3, then you get to be celebrated especially.
Nice.
So they probably see more of that around town. I saw some signs and I didn't know what they were, but that's what a lot of those signs are, talking about a parade and too. So we'll take advantage of gathering people on the common to let them know about the Friends of the Historical Commission.
Thank you.
Yep.
While we were in this discussion, I noticed Mary Lou has left. She's not here, but she
Okay.
sent a letter to us all. She's expressing an interest in rejoining the commission.
Okay.
And we're gonna wait and see if we get other applicants for sure, since we just put out the notice. But I do want to express a concern that I think we need, for her sake, some clarity, because whether we would even consider endorsing her, given that she was removed from the commission.
It's certainly an issue.
Did the select board give a reason for that, or was it just they don't have to?
They did not. But there was a and I'm not privy to what happened, but there was a discussion in a executive session the previous winter that was related to a complaint that I had submitted, which I believe, when you weren't on the commission, I believe I shared my complaint with the rest of the commission, so I believe it became a public record. But
Mateo was not on the commission either.
Mateo, it was not, and Bert was not.
And we could discuss that, maybe not today.
But I filed an open meeting law complaint to the select board, asking for them to act because of some dynamics that I didn't think were proper, involving email communications.
Okay.
Well, I could always try her as an associate, like working her way back up or something, and see if that works or not.
I guess I have reservations about doing that, Janice, because I felt like this was an issue. I made complaints. The first round of complaints I filed when I was chair of the historical commission and she was an associate.
Okay.
And then it became more so when she became a commissioner, but it went on for years, and I made a long record of raising these concerns before it got to the place where it got. And I'm sorry about that, but it was really untenable. I was getting 3 to 6 emails a week that were argumentative and demanding deliberations and suggesting deliberations and lobbying for decisions for the commission to make. And as the secretary or as the chair, I was kind of in the receiving end of all of it. And it was kind of too much.
Yeah.
It's fine for people. It's fine for people to do that. as members of the public. And I totally understand and respect the rights of the public to petition town government, but when we're on a board and we're subject to open meeting law, then we have to be careful about our email communications so that they don't constitute deliberations.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to follow procedure, and I think that, you know, may the best person win. Yeah. You know.
Okay.
Any other business that we should be thinking about? How about a next meeting? Anything?
Can I make a comment, Henry?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
There is a number of really excellent carpenters that are retired that live in Shutesbury
Oh,
that might be interested in doing the structure that, you know, to cover the signage. I think the more important thing is how the design of it, something that would be appropriate and also that would look good. But as far as doing the work, I think there's some people that might be willing to do that, and I could try to approach somebody
great.
like Ross Greco. I don't know if he'd be interested or not, but I can ask him, and he has a lot of connections with a lot of different carpenters in town.
Yep.
So
Well,
it might be.
I have to look, I started playing around with looking, getting some ideas, like some pictures of ideas of what I thought might look good.
Oh.
You know, so there, you know, something simple, something that is in keeping with the colonial feature nature of the common, you know, so it's also possible, and you know, we could look at this, but you know, we're talking about assuming it would be stick built, but you can get like structures that are metal.
Yep.
Some of them are, you know, as kits, and some of them are very attractive looking and would be almost virtually maintenance free.
Some
And,
of them are colonial. Or...
You can get some that have a more of a colonial or more country kind of barn sort of feel or something, you know, with open exposed beams or something, but you could, there are different. But, you know, that may actually, when you have to factor in the maintenance, and that's always a challenge for us with things on the common, is making sure that things are repainted and repaired so that they don't have to be replaced. And so it might be worth looking at whether something could be structurally sound enough and also aesthetically appropriate.
So you're thinking in different terms, so something that wouldn't really require a carpenter.
Well, it would probably require a carpenter to install it, and it would have to be on some sort of base, you know.
Mhm.
I imagine, you know, might have to be on some, you know, either helical piers or some sonotubes or something.
Okay.
So, you know, it's still gonna need to be constructed. It just, question was like, is there a way to think of this where it would also require less maintenance, since we're not recreating anything, we're creating something new. We just need it to not clash. We need it to look
Right, and we
Yeah.
don't want it to take away from the structure either.
and not
Right.
take away from the structure, right? Be big enough so it isn't crowding it. Things like that, but big enough to keep, you know, snow and rain off it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What would you Google? What would I Google to try to see some of those sorts of things?
I'm trying to think of how I was looking at
Cupola.
them.
I think it goes by cupola.
Yeah,
Well, not cupola, and not a pergola is usually a thing with slats.
yeah.
But I think I was looking at like,
Gazebo.
yeah, gazebo. If you go to like gazebo kits,
Okay.
you can also get gazebo designs. And so, you know, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. You
Okay.
can download the designs and plans on the internet, and then we could get, you know, carpenters and stick build it. But if we didn't want to go that route, and we wanted to go with something that was a kit, you know, there are some out there. I don't know. I can't evaluate how structurally sound they are, but you know, we're not in a hurricane zone.
the real challenge will be building it so that the guideboard will still be visible. Because
Yeah, I think it has to be, it's really gonna require that the roof be tall enough.
yeah,
Maybe it will have to be hand built because I think we'd want it taller than a usual gazebo roof so that, you know, you can see the whole structure.
yeah,
If
I'm
the structure
looking.
is 5 or 6 feet tall,
Yep.
you're gonna want this thing up off that.
Mhm.
Do you think it would still be in the center of town at the common?
Yeah, I would think so.
Just move it back away from that edge?
Maybe move back a little bit from the edge, which we get it anyway, because it gets sometimes plowed,
Yeah.
plowing approach on it, but there's people are not walking along the road anyway, so you know, if somebody wants to look at it, they would probably walk up to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
They gave us, when they gave the assessment, they gave us a couple photographs of some examples where there was like a bell, a memorial bell or something, or historical bell that was in a structure.
Yeah, Hadley did one of those.
Hadley has something like that, yeah. They're pretty, they can be very simple, I mean, or you can make them more involved with benches, and
Uh-huh.
I'm not thinking of anything like that, I'm just talking about something that would not impede the view too much.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And it just would be nice if it was not something that had to be painted every 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Lots of examples online. I'm looking at. Perhaps I can collect some and send them to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Anything else? That,
Oh.
Next meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Put us into September, late September.
Our Concom is going to be having a public hearing, and we're tentatively thinking of having it on the 20th, but I'd like to kind of keep the 27th open in case you know, we have a problem. And so I'm wondering if we could find an alternative time
First week of October.
or move it up to the first week in October.
Yeah. That would seem okay.
So looking at Wednesday, the 4th.
Wednesday,
Mhm.
7.
That works for me.
Works for me, okay.
Yep,
Okay.
good.
And we should have some progress on the membership by that time. People
Yeah.
should show up at our meeting.
Yeah.
Maybe get some applicants.
Okay.
If you know of anybody who might fit the bill, do reach out.
That's good.
Okay, well.
So it is
let's
8:26.
Move to adjourn. I move to adjourn. Second.
Second.
All right. Going around. Tangalo.
Aye.
Defiant.
Aye.
Is Fernandez.
Aye.
Yeah, it is I and
Hi,
Stone. Okay. Well, thank you all.
thank you.
Aye.
Yep.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.